Good morning. I'm Patty Elaine, and welcome back to 78 Reflections. Today we're going to jump into yet another Wobble reading, which is inspired by the Chariot card. If you're not familiar with Wobble readings and you'd like to learn a little bit more about them, I will have some videos linked in the description box. But with that, we are going to just jump right in. The first card in the Wobble reading is a response to the question, what energy is showing up for me today? Oh, the Nine of Wands. When I think of the Nine of Wands, I think of tenacity. I think of the dark night of the soul. It's always darkest before the dawn. It's usually a time of exhaustion, maybe feeling discouraged, maybe holding on tightly to what you're passionate about, but not really knowing if you can keep going. In the image, the Shadowland inhabitant sits reading a journal by candlelight while nursing a bump on his head. He's reviewing his journal, past actions, the road thus far, to assess what has led him here. He needs a moment of reflection before moving on. The message of this card is quite simply to take a pause and determine what's the best course of action to move forward. I get the Ten of Wands all the time when it comes to my work, and it's usually about carrying stuff that's not yours or making things harder than it needs to be. And so when I get the Nine of Wands, I always try to think, if I keep going on this trajectory, the next step is the 10, which is completion, but the hardest possible way. And so at the 9 spot, I always like to think, is there a better way forward? Is there a different way forward? Because as this reflection, this image, we have this creature reading his journal, hopefully reading his journal not to lament and beat himself up and become filled with regrets, but rather to say, okay, here's where I've come from. Here's where I need to go, and maybe I can make some changes to make it a little easier to get there. Remember, it's a 9 card, so you're almost there. The shadow side of the Nine of Wands is, rather than taking that pause, is to have that frantic energy, to go into a frenzy, or to become very distracted and disjointed on your pathway forward. So what is the energy that is competing with the Nine of Wands energy today? The Chariot card. How nice of the Chariot card to show up in a Chariot reading. I don't think that's happened yet. So the Chariot card is the wobble. It's how we navigate forward despite competing energies. And the mantra that I always have for the Chariot card is, I am here to live freely, truthfully, fearlessly, and skillfully. In this image, we have a charioteer that's riding 2 spiders in an unknown towards an unknown destination. And while she trusts that she's going to arrive at the destination, even if it's a bit of a tricky program to get there, the goal is to keep these spiders on track, running in the same direction, approximately the same cadence. And, I like the image because, she's wearing yellow, which signifies optimism. Also, the way she's holding her wand is, signifying positive forward momentum. So she's on an adventure, she's on a mission, she's going towards her spiritual calling, and learning about balance and control along the way. So on one side here, we have the Nine of Energies, which is inviting a pause and reflection about the best way forward. And on the other side, we have this optimistic forward momentum offered by the Chariot card. So what's a really good question that could help us navigate these competing energies? Oh, the Four of Wands. We have had the Four of Wands already. The Four of Wands is stability, milestones, support. In the Wild Unknown guidebook, this card speaks of completion, a plentiful harvest as a result of steady and strong effort. In the Waite-Smith traditional imagery, it's often a wedding. And when we talked about the card earlier this week, we talked about, having a milestone and the support, which the four is always stability, foundation, support. The support comes from the gathering of people around you to encourage you and show you their love and support. So, it may be a wedding, it could be a birthday, it could be anything where people are gathering. And for me, the Four of Wands card doesn't always need to be people gathering around me. Maybe it's about me gathering around me to show myself some love, support, and encouragement. So what occurs to me with the Four of Wands in the context of this wobble created by the Nine of Wands, the pause and reflection, and the forward momentum of the Chariot, is that this is the time to take a minute to consider and recognize the milestones. And remember, the Four of Wands isn't the end of a marathon. It's a marker along the way. So it's the people standing alongside the road, cheering you on and encourage you to keep going. And so if you're like me, maybe you don't always feel like you have a lot of people cheering you on or encouraging you. So I think it's important for us to do that for ourselves. So for today, I'm inviting myself, and if you would like to join with me, to take a moment to reflect on our road this far and find something to acknowledge and to recognize and celebrate. Because oftentimes we are wired to look at what's not going well and not giving ourselves any credit at all for what is. So I hope that resonated with you today. I would love to hear from you if you would like to leave a comment about what came to mind for you with these competing energies and the really good question. And I would also appreciate it if you like this video, if you could like it, and subscribe if you want to hear more from me. And with that, we'll wrap up, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow in the next Wobble Reading. Until then.